That's my entire sustenance plan at this point. That and the egg place, the egg lady.
Whatever works.
Kerry O'Shea Gorgone, there are some that are going to look back on this episode of the Backpack Show as their favorite. There are others that are going to be, what a bunch of lazy bastards. I can't believe they just interviewed Kerry. But I think there's a lot we're going to get a chance to talk about today. Are you
I have no idea what you're going to talk about today.
There is that. Are you nervous about it? Like, do you have any trepidation?
It's you, of course. I'm nervous.
Hi, everyone. Tim Kitzer from NBA Jam and NFL Blitz, welcoming you to The Backpack Show. Your hosts, Chris Brogan, Kerry Gorgone, Boom Shakalaka. Backpack Show.
Knowing you, you'd be like, what's the most humiliating thing that happened to you in kindergarten?
Did you ever pee on anyone's musical instruments?
I Coach Woodard.
Coach Woodard, and I think I saw him by town. So that's great. Kerry, I wanted to have you on as a guest because sometimes we don't get the chance to ask you things. And in fact, sometimes when you tell people your things, I always say, shh, so I thought it'd be great to try it out and have some guest talk.
Every time I tell people my things, you say shush. Yeah. Usually after you spent 90 seconds like setting up a story of yours. And
telling some dumb story.
2 minutes telling it. Yeah.
Well, the reason it takes 90 seconds is because if you have a great podcasting app like Castos.com, you're gonna want to have some good content in there. Castos.com is a great place to put an audio podcast. So, that 90 seconds could be all spent on that. But I mean, if I want you to talk about like you and like what it was like when you were a kid growing up in school, I might tell you get online. So you get your own .online domain. Go to cbrogan.me/online.
Wow.
Just put in the code Chris. Doesn't matter how.
You have to be all caps or it doesn't work.
Oh,
isn't that dumb? Yep. Did they give like a lowercase Chris also? And that person, they're like, you have to be lowercase. Like what?
That guy's in Bombay, and they just say, don't ever ask that guy because he won't share with you. Right. I was searching up some questions to ask about you on pre-search. I was trying to figure out, when you graduated, Radio 2 Loudy and all that. And so that's presearch.com is a search engine. It's like Google, but nothing like Google.
Summa cum laude.
Meet some nice people. Oh, summa cum laude, right? That's like almost magna cum laude. You have to explain to me what the difference is.
One person. Well, different schools do it different, but it's stuff like law. It's like that only goes to one person, the first person.
So was it Tom Selleck was the only one who could be magnum cum laude?
Yes. No,
just got it.
I had no
idea. Hey, if you want to make a show, you can make a show. You can make it a show at StreamYard. cbrogan.me/StreamYard. Kerry recommended this. So here's the first thing about the Backpack Show. Kerry recommended StreamYard, and I was like, no. I'm going to use
You're so fussy. You can be a little resistant.
Yeah, I can. So there we go. That's that. Hey, people are here. Funny. Hi, Jane.
Hey.
A lot of people want to come and find out a little bit about you. So you did, you graduated summa cum laude from college. Were you that kind of kid in grade school as well? What kind of a student?
Oh my God, no. Well, so yeah, kind of. So law school, summa cum laude, because I was like real serious about law school. It was expensive. And I was like, I'm not screwing around. But college, less so. Like, so in grade school and high school, super serious. And then I went to college and was like, I'm just going to stay up all night and do stupid things. And so for a while, I didn't care much at all. And then I went to graduate school, had a research assistantship, and I was like, I guess I better get serious about this.
And so, are you a good studier and stuff like that? Like, or are you just someone who actually remembers it without the studying, or where do you fall in that spectrum?
It's funny. So I learned by hearing. So I remember what people say and the way that they said it. And so I have to go to class. That's what I would have to do well at the end. I couldn't just like read something. I mean, I guess I could have, but it wouldn't have been as easy. But I could easily remember what I'd heard. So in law school, I didn't write my own outlines at all. I took somebody else's and then corrected it based on what I remembered the teacher having said or the professor having said. And then I studied from that, just reviewed it over and over. And I remember one of my civil procedure professor was like, you wrote the best exam I've seen in 12 years. How did you study? And I told him, and he was like, I would never recommend anybody do that.
That's not a good method.
Oh, well,
yeah.
You got to know what works for you. People are always giving you advice. I don't know why at that level they feel like it's okay to give you advice and tell you how to study. But one guy said, get a study group and commit to it like a marriage. So yeah, so I did a study group for like a couple weeks and then figured out that I was just like explaining stuff to people. I said, forget it. I'm not doing this anymore. And I didn't do it anymore.
Yeah. So that's, maybe that wasn't the best advice
No,
either.
it's everybody's different is why. So
That's
some
right.
things like some people naturally take to law and some people don't. And some people like to study by themselves. And some people don't.
Right.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But
Well, I hope people in the comments come and type in some questions for you, because it'll be a lot more fun
because you
show if
don't
they
have
ask some
any.
questions. No, I have tons. I have tons. But I just want them to get the opportunity to do so as well. One of my first questions is, when you get a law degree, one would presume you go right off to trial law, and you're like, weren't you there on the night of the murder? What did you do
Mm.
right after you get the degree? What kind of law work were you doing for a while?
So when I was in law school, I interned in all different types of law. So I did a summer as a nonprofit person, which I really liked a lot. They offered me a fellowship, but it didn't pay enough money for my student loan, so I couldn't take it. I interned with an entertainment lawyer, and that was a lot of fun. So like copyright, trademark, a little bit of like divorce and stuff, because surprise,
Mhm.
celebrities get divorced. And municipal law. Like I had no idea there was this little office in town where this
Mhm.
lawyer like wrote letters about people who hit fire hydrants because when they were drunk and had to pay for them, or zoning, like you want to turn an old churchyard into a soccer field, or like there's all kinds of stuff. So I did that and then decided quickly that was not going to be for me. And I interned with the land court. So that's like it's exactly what you think it is. It's like property
Mhm.
law and zoning and stuff in Massachusetts. And I could have easily done that too. I could have clerked there. But at the end, I wanted to see more of what was out there. And so I clerked in New Hampshire, and clerks like work for the judges. They come into court with them and make notes and draft opinions and stuff like that. So if you see somebody there who's not the stenographer and is not the judge, it's probably a law clerk, especially if they look kind of young. So I did
Could
that
be a
for
clerk.
2 years. Yeah. And I got to see all kinds of cases because in New Hampshire, they don't separate out the law
Gotcha.
stuff and they don't separate out the family stuff. Like it's all at the trial level, it's all in the mix. So
Oh,
got to
wow.
see everything. Yeah.
Coach Woodard had the question, what drew you to law school? Like, what
Oh
made
boy.
that the choice?
Ever since I was a kid, my mom would tell me to be a lawyer, and I was like, no. And then, and then when I got older, I was like, I don't really know what I want to do. And I did have a lot of the neat, kind of the natural capabilities that would work well in that context. So I ended up going to law school as much just because I like didn't know what else I wanted to do. And I also had a mentor who in college taught consumer law, and he recruited me for the Bentley Consumer Action Line. So I was mediating consumer complaints for the
Mm.
Massachusetts Attorney General. And anyway, so he played a role in it too, as much as I joked that it was just because I didn't have anything better to do. Like my my mentor went to Suffolk, and Cy Horvitz, I love him still. He's passed away, but I love him. And he had had such a colorful and interesting career and was such a fun person. And I thought, maybe I'll give it a try because clearly there are some fun lawyers.
Yeah, I mean, I think people have seen Better Call Saul, and they've, they've gone. There's a few
I
lawyers
didn't
out
feel
there
like
that could.
I didn't feel like I belonged there at first though, because like I think like a lot of younger women who go into what had traditionally been a male profession, it could be a little bit intimidating. My professors, for the most part, were really old guys, and
Mhm.
they could be a little like snotty. I don't know if that's I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but it's been years, so I think I'm allowed to say it now.
Sure.
And yeah, they're talked down to you a little bit, and they I think I had a little insecurity, but then I was at the top of my section after the first year, and I was like, "F everybody," and I just worked really hard. So
Yeah.
I worked really
And,
hard, but then I made time to watch cartoons. Like I needed
like, you
to
have to do both.
decompress.
You have to do
Yeah.
both. Andy points out that mom pressured him into being a lawyer as well. Hated every minute of training, 2 years in a law firm. So, I mean, you could really have to throw some
Yeah.
serious hours to get there and do all the stuff. Um,
It's true.
but then you said, I don't think I'm going to do this so much anymore. I think, law, it's probably similar to law, marketing. Um,
Well,
somewhere in
so
between, you did other stuff too. What's the curve from law
oh
school to
boy.
profs?
We have to understand it all happened so fast. So I graduated high school a year early. So I was going to college at 17 and chose my major by accident because I
Slip
said
and fell.
I said, I think I would like to try advertising. And they're like, business communication, I think. And they were wrong because we had a marketing major, but they put me business communication. So that was like mistake number one. But it ended up being, I tried technical writing and a bunch of other stuff kind of on my way out,
Mhm.
and interned in marketing. And then I was worked at a startup in Cambridge in marketing, got offered a job there, but went to get my MBA instead. So I got a research assistantship from the writing center professor in charge of that. Like I'd been tutoring at the writing center. And so he offered me a research assistantship. I got my MBA. So I did that, then went to law school, then clerked, and then practiced in litigation for a couple of years before deciding that was definitely not for me. So I went back to my alma mater for undergrad, Bentley University, and I started teaching law as an adjunct professor. So business law and marketing law and stuff like that. But like I had some marketing background, is what I'm saying already. And then I was also doing podcasting. Like I was doing a lot of kind of marketing-y things, but also teaching law and then editing the college magazine. Well, it was this really crazy mix of things of marketing and law and teaching, and it was nuts. So I
Was there
moved
ever a
to
time you
Florida.
weren't a go-getter? Like, did you like organize your
Oh.
nap pillows and stuff too?
No, I mean, so my room was a mess when I was growing up. It was chaos. And
Why? How did you get so like you're so gung ho? You do all the things. You just named
I'm
like
very
8 things.
focused and
Hmm.
disciplined when I want to do a thing, but
I see.
I'm also very clear on what I do and don't want to do. So.
Right. Well, you also wanted to do cartoons, and Elizabeth wants to know which ones were you watching back then?
Oh my gosh. So on Saturday mornings, I would watch them all. I would watch them all the way through to like Fat Albert and like Bob Ross. And we kind of got down to like the Seeds and Stems, but like, what did I like the best? I liked ones about horses. So there's
Mhm.
one called Wildfire that I watched, a short lived. I did not like as much like He-Man and She-Ra, which were the after school ones. Not my favorites. They were a little preachy.
Mhm.
I'm trying to think what other ones I actually like. Oh, in law school, Animaniacs. I would watch the
Oh.
Animaniacs in the afternoon. So I would get up really early, would do all my studying in the morning, go to class all afternoon, then come home and watch Animaniacs and screw off the whole rest of the night. That
And
was my
Animaniacs had, I
thing.
mean, some, ostensibly some really useful stuff on it. They had the songs about the
Ostensibly.
countries, they had the
Oh, yeah.
state capitals on there. So, I remember parts of, da 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 Mexico, Peru, da 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 da. You just like walk
Mhm.
your way through all the countries. It's pretty
Educational.
useful
Yeah.
back in the day.
But when I moved to
Um,
Florida in 2008, that's when I was teaching full time, but they wouldn't pay for professors at Full Sail, wouldn't pay for you to go to a conference and learn more things about whatever area you were in. So I started freelance writing for sites like Marketing Profs and some other ones to go cover events. And so money I made freelance, I put into my own travel and stuff to go to the events. And then the event would give me a press pass to go. So I didn't have to pay for registration and stuff. So, and then the college ended up, they would give me time off, but that was it. Like they didn't pay for anything. But so I figured out a way basically to bankroll my own professional education. That's how I got involved with training and profs and stuff, that kind of stuff.
Pinky, are you pondering what I'm pondering? I think so, brain, but we'll never get a monkey to use dental floss. Um,
Me
so that's what I had.
too.
So one of
Narf.
the times that you narf, one of the times that you and I crossed paths, we've known each other for more than a dozen or so years. One of the times you and I crossed paths was Full Sail. You had me on
Mhm.
as a guest lecturer for your
I
marketing
did.
class. First off, why? And then second off, what kind of hoops did you have to jump through to get a weirdo like me on your campus?
Well, it was pretty funny actually. So I didn't have any trouble convincing them or anything because I could invite pretty much whoever I wanted. But they made it instead of just my class, they made it a whole program wide thing because you're an author and everything. And so yeah, the funny part was at the time you had an assistant and I asked the assistant and you were immediately like, yes, I want to do it. And I said, "Cool, can we talk about this?" And I kept adding to the list. I was like, "And also this, and this, and this, and this," because Full Sail had this like really crazy cross section of students. Some of them came from a kind of traditional background, and other ones were just wildly off the beaten path and coming back to
Mm-hmm.
the career of marketing from a completely different place. And I thought, be cool. We could talk about all different, all different types of marketing and industries and things. And you were so lovely about it too. You were like, "Sure, I can talk about that. Sure, 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 sure." And it's like this ridiculous list. And so it ends up being like an hour. But the reason I wanted you was because I had read, I think it was the impact equation, and I really loved it. And I wanted to use it in my class, but we had like certain vendors we worked through or something. and they wouldn't approve it. And I was like, F all of you. I wanted to get your smarts into my classroom. And it turned into like a whole program wide thing.
Gotcha. I want to show a little clip, and then I'm going to ask you a couple of questions about your. We're taking a turn into media and all that sort of thing. We'll show a little clip.
All right.
Hello.
This is Hank. He's a big star too. So Hank has been on many TV shows and many radio, especially when he was a puppy. Everybody loved him, and he travels with us quite a bit. He's basically the zero cancer mascot. So
what kind of dog is
this
he?
is
I've
you
never
with
heard
singer
of a
Jimmy
dog making that
Charles,
noise.
and you are
yeah,
talking
you would
about
think he's a little
Hank the
piggy,
cancer
but
dog.
he's an English bulldog.
Look at him.
So you have for a while been making media in different places. This is my twist into that. So you did this for this kind of a project in the old days for marketing profs, where you said, "Hey, I think I could do this podcast for you guys," and all that sort of a thing. Was that you moved from Full Sail into marketing profs, or did I miss a move in between there?
No, you got it. It's so interviewing though. I've been interested in since high school. I had to do like a media project, and I interviewed the lunch ladies on camera.
Nice.
Yeah. So my choice. I thought there was a story there to be told, and it hadn't been told before. So I always liked interviewing people and learning from people. I was podcasting in 2005 about pregnancy and about having a newborn, and I interviewed people for that. Like basically, when I had a problem, I would find someone I thought could help me solve it and get them on. Like a pediatrician I had on, I was like, look, I know I created this sleep problem myself, and I'm asking you, Dr. Mike, to help me fix it. Like that was the kind of stuff I would do. And I mentioned when I had you in and other people like CC Chapman come in to talk to my students at Full Sail, how much I liked that exchange. Like that was I guess it was sort of an interview. And I mentioned to Ann Hanley how much I liked that. And so when the Marketing Profs podcast came open because Matt Grant moved on, she offered it to me just because I had mentioned to her that I liked interviewing. And that's that. I did it for like 7 years.
Wild.
Yeah.
Now you've also had, a little bit of time on stage and that sort of a thing. So
Spark.me, those people are fantastic. That's Montenegro.
Okay, I was gonna say, is that your people in sort of like the middle of the Eastern Bloc or something?
Yeah, I think I didn't realize ME is Montenegro.
Thank you.
I didn't realize it first.
Oh.
What did I learn? Podcasting is harder than it looks.
It is.
That's what I've learned. I also learned that if you wear this t-shirt, people will ask you for things.
I wore the event t-shirt.
And I don't know
The
anything.
event t-shirt.
Oh, the event
It's been
shirt.
a very interesting day. Thanks, Natasha, for the suggestion that I present in this t-shirt.
I'm skipping a little.
Yeah, don't.
Extremely photogenic. His own ads. It takes a tough man to make a tender chicken.
So this whole presentation, I
The thing
took
about
clips
that
from
is
shows that I had done for marketing profs, and I distilled them down into a presentation. So it was structured so that I just kind of saw themes in the marketing that worked and the advice that I got, not unlike how we see themes in the people we have on the Backpack Show and learn how to succeed at anything based on what our guests have done. I saw in marketing just the same things, that marketing had to be memorable, and to be memorable, it had to have heart, and like the types of advice I saw. So I had people, you were in that one too, actually. You talked about, there's a clip of you I'd selected where you're talking about your email that you send every week, which is still like one of my favorite email newsletters, by the way. And
it's my favorite.
And shut up. And how you engineer it to create conversation back by asking people something simple like, what are you drinking? And give them a prompt. Like, so even if they don't feel as though they're an expert in whatever it was you were covering substantively, there's something to talk about.
Right. By the way, our friend Robert Collins, who has another new job, says lunch ladies have the best stories.
Collins. It's the best.
So listen, let's stay with marketing profs for a minute or so. You worked there 8 or 9 or so years. When you picked up Marketing Smarts podcast and all that, what did you feel like you wanted to bring to it? What was going to make it the show that you wanted to run over there?
So the show as it had launched was a very different show than the one it ended up being, because Matt Grant is like very cerebral and I think he has a doctor of theology. I think he's a doctor of theology. If you look at his background, it's very like big
We're talking
brain.
about Grant. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the show was very much like that. Like it could have been on NPR at that point. And I had to tell Anne, like, that's not me. I'm like, I watch shows on the USA Network. Like, I'm not, I'm not Matt Grant. And she's like, oh no, make it your own, So, I mean, it was very different. Every once in a while I'd pull out some of the things I would say, which I didn't even realize at the time I said them. And it was very funny. But so it was a very different show. I had a lot more, it was a lot lighter. It was just a different vibe altogether.
How long did the
And
show run as far as like how long was an episode typically?
like 30, I tried to stick to about 30 minutes.
Okay.
I never went as long as 40, except for special episodes where I ran a bunch of people together. Like I would put together, not a compilation. It was new content, but I would ask a bunch of people like one question, the same question, and then present that. Like, what's the biggest marketing screw up, you ever did or something, that
Sure.
kind of thing.
Coach
Then
Woodard has
those
a
could be
question.
longer.
Oh, okay.
Twitter has a question.
Coach Woodard has a question. He said, how did your education, like business school and law school, factor into that content creation for marketing? Or did it?
Yeah, I mean, of course, like it's never like if you get education, it's never going to be wasted. So it gives you perspective. It gives you new ideas you didn't have before. And I definitely see things and connections that I wouldn't have seen without it. But law, I think uniquely gives you a couple things that you need. There's diplomacy, which was not my strong suit. It's still not in some cases, but I can turn it on when I need to as law school. And then also the idea of designing communication with an end in mind, even when you, I don't want to say control every aspect of it, but when you're cross-examining someone, for example, you have to keep very tight control on those questions and keep that window in which they can answer. Like it has to be really small because otherwise they're going to take the conversation someplace you don't want it to go. And so you learn that when you're a lawyer as well. And I think that's valuable. I always treat my interviews more like me on direct examination, where I want to give you leeway because I'm trying to showcase you. Whereas, cross-examination was like, yes or no only. Let's keep it really tight. It's just a different thing.
Gotcha.
But it
Let's
taught
cut
me
to
well.
another-
I mean, and marketing gave me magazine style writing, which actually served really well in law because people are used to a lot of academic writing with a lot of
How do you
fancy
mean
words.
magazine style writing? Can you explain that to people who
Subject,
don't know?
verb, object. You write magazine copy, really short sentences, more emotionally charged language, not histrionic, but like simpler, more emotionally appealing language, simple sentences meant to be consumed quickly. You can scan it and get the point. And a lot of legal writing is the opposite of that. Like it reads like a treatise. It's like a big fat, it could be old English, like it's hard to read. I tried never to do that. I would cite language in a statute if I had to, but the application was always magazine copy. Like he threw the child in the bushes or something. Like it was very direct, so that I created a picture in the person's mind, and I nearly always would prevail.
Throw the horse over the fence some hay.
Words
I'm
have
gonna
power,
I'm going to cut to a little clip.
Oh no.
Sometimes you just want to talk about something other than work. Katie Robert and Kerry O'Shea Gorgone get to the weird hobbies, guilty pleasures, and secret side hustles. The good stuff about all your favorite people. Punch Out with Katie and Kerry.
Huh. So you have a show. It's a leisure kind of audio podcast show called Punch Out with Katie and Kerry. You picked a kind of a different setup and a different layout and a few different things that make it a little different. Who'd you go with for an announcer?
It's you. So here's a fun fact. You do all my shows. You've done them since. Okay. So for Marketing Profs, I at one point had 3 different people, and one of them was Ann Hanley, read a thing for me. And then I cut together all of you into an opener for Marketing Smarts. And then I forget how many years later it was, but I was like, I really just want to use Chris's. And so I made yours the whole thing. Like I went back and got the original audio and made yours the whole opener, and Anne loved it. Everybody loved it. And I was so happy. Like every
Great.
time I would listen to it. And so when I launched Punch Out with Katie and Kerry, I wanted somebody with a distinctive voice, a little bit of fun and mischief. And I was like, oh, it has to be Chris. Like you just have the perfect voice for everything, basically. So for everything I wanted to do. And so I sent you the thing and like asked really nicely.
Right.
the opener. So
Well, how does that fit though? Like, what's Punch Out about?
So that's about how people spend their off hours. I am an opponent of hustle culture, if you want to call it that. I think it's BS, and it's dangerous BS that you have to work all the time and no days off and never, take a break from work in order to succeed. It just isn't true. I knew from interviewing people for marketing profs and other things that they have rich and interesting lives outside of work and spend plenty of time supporting causes and just pursuing hobbies and doing collecting things or going places. And I just knew it wasn't true. The hustle culture wasn't true, and I wanted to show it. So by interviewing people like you and other people in the marketing space in particular and the tech space, to show that, listen, the people you hold up as like your career template have very interesting lives outside of work. And in many cases, that time and energy spent outside of work is what fuels their success at work.
Right. It's a great series. I can say that because we're pals and all that, but I mean, it's just fun. It's really fun to hear what people are into. I am forever going, wow, that is something I didn't know that person was into. And
Chris get residuals. He gets a crisp high five.
Yeah. Let me show you another show. I want to give you another little clip here, and this is from a really recent show that you just launched.
Oh yeah, on with AppFire, and this is the best project portfolio management
The old
show.
branding.
We are
How
joined
dare.
again by Michelle Bartonico,
Yeah.
who's one of my very favorite guests. She's senior strategist.
Does this
and
have the
project
intro
manager at
even or
Trinity
no?
University.
It cuts
And
right
she's
off,
going to
right?
illuminate us on the subject of
does.
which project management
But there's a new intro now.
certification
Oh.
should you get. Of course, it's going to depend. I'm going to spoil that answer, but stick around for 10 minutes of awesome.
You've got questions about PPM, but you're afraid to ask? Well, wait no longer. AppFire presents the best project portfolio management show by AppFire.
So there I am doing another one of your shows. This is your new show. This is you work for this company, software company, I guess they're called AppFire. And in that process, they said, "Hey, we want you to make some shows," and you said, or some content, and you said, "I've got a show idea," and you just banged out a show. So what happened there, and what's the best project portfolio management show? How'd you put this thing together?
I knew coming into AppFire that we were about to start making a content hub, a destination. And for a destination to be appealing, you need to have content in it. And so I looked at not just where we were and kind of who AppFire's community is now, but where we're going and who we're going to want to have a relationship with in the future. So I actually talked to you about it. And I was thinking about a topic, like a big, broad topic that would be of interest to a new segment of people that we don't have a lot of inroads with now, kind of. And project management was one of the things. We have a lot of amazing project management tools, some of which are standalone. Like you don't even have to use the big Atlassian thing to connect up with it if you don't want. You can just use this tool for like whiteboards, for example, for whiteboarding. And so I thought, cool, there's project management within that. There's agile, there's all sorts of things we could talk about. And I just spun up a show, and the creative team, we have an amazing creative team. I didn't even ask them for anything. I just launched this show, and I think they were like a little offended that I didn't ask them for a background and stuff, like that intro and everything. That was on this side of things. So after I launched it, and I think I have 21 episodes out. I have 22 or 3 recorded. And they made me a new intro, so I'm gonna have to go back and replace it at some point. But yeah, I just punched out a bunch of shows. They're 10 minutes each. They answer one question a piece, and I actually looked at Answer the Public to see what people were asking about project management, so that I could answer those questions.
Interesting. Barb Collins says side hustles and 5 to 9 passions are at the heart that drive most people, and all these shared stories matter.
Do you see Elizabeth likes your voice too? It's great, right?
Oh, thank you.
And Bob Collins says CRAC. Actually, we were doing IRAC at the time. It was issue, rule, analysis, conclusion. But my things I would write were pure analysis. Like there was no, I mean, I spend very little time framing the other stuff.
I was never a crack dealer, so I don't know what any of that means.
Now I feel like you have to show the new intro.
Well, is that this one? So let's take a look. I've got this one here.
No, that's old.
Hello,
The new one
This
is
is
like
like-
Kerry O'Shea Gorgone.
that's the most recent thing on the
I didn't do it
website.
in like the right color, so it was like a cranberry sort of color. Hold on.
So I'm on the YouTube channel for Crapfire.
Oh, it wouldn't be on YouTube.
Well,
Silly.
then where would I find it?
It'd be on the hub, silly goose. Hub.appfire.com. The best project
Anyone go
portfolio
here? Do I have
management
to have
show
a
by Appfire.
Jira login or something?
I also wanted, no, it's there. I also wanted to do a series of shows, and I wanted to create a platform that others at Appfire could use. So I thought the best show about whatever by Appfire could work for anybody in any department that wanted to have a show.
I just want to point something out, by the way. So this girl here, this Kerry
This girl.
Gorgone, shows up, says, "I'm just going to help them launch their own little platform." And look, she gets her freaking head on it. Like they're like,
I
"Yep,
didn't ask
yep,
for
yep."
that. I did not ask for that.
Next thing you know, she's the face of the stupid channel. It says star content, and like all of this is Kerry plus like 2 other people. So then where do I go to find your show now? This one, the
Right there.
cranberry colored one.
Mhm.
All right, let's see. So if I click on
Click on the best project portfolio management show by Appfire. Any
so
one of
this
those.
one here, 3 most valuable pieces.
Yeah.
Okay. And then right
Now
in
if
the
you play
button.
it, you'll hear the new intro. This is so funny. Hello, I'm Kerry O'Shea Gorgone, and this
me.
is the best project portfolio
Hello.
management
her
show
back again because I love her.
by Appfire. Today, we're going to talk about the 3 most valuable pieces of project management advice Michelle Bartonico has ever received. Michelle's senior strategist and project manager at Trinity
I'll introduce
University.
her.
She's a certified PMP, completed the Google Project Management Program and the Search
She
Engine
knows her stuff.
Optimization specialization from UC Davis. So stick around for 10 minutes of awesome, really valuable project management advice. I promise you won't be sorry.
Appfire presents the best project portfolio management show
By Appfire.
Michelle,
pretty
let's get right
good.
to it. The most right?
I hadn't even heard that one yet. So
Oh, and there's an ITSM one too, because I'm going to be launching the show on ITSM, and I did the exact same type of intro to you.
So you now have, besides this show, 3, 4, or 5 more shows. So that's pretty intense.
3 more fun. So I did it on purpose. I knew we had a whole hub to populate, and we have many, many, many apps, like 200 or something apps so far, and they do different things. And so everybody that's using them is using them for a different role, a different job, a different purpose. And so we're going to need shows about all kinds of different things if we want to help all these people. So I've got one on project management, one coming on ITSM. I'm going to do a whole show of just demos. That's coming too. But so it's all designed to answer questions people have in 10 minutes or less. And the way the branding is, anybody at Appfire who wanted to do a show, I've laid the groundwork. The accounts are created. Like they could spin up a show, a best show about anything they want.
And it would be the best show.
That's my hope. The best show by Appfire. It's like Appfire presents the best law show by Appfire. So it'll never be like not true.
So Coach
Nobody can
Whitton
argue
says,
with us.
Chris is pretty good as an announcer, but you really need that voiceover guy that you've had on the best podcast show, the best PPM show or whatever. You should get
The
that one
backpack
instead.
show? Oh,
don't
Tim Kitzrow?
I don't know.
Tim Kitzrow. He's talking about Tim Kitzrow. Boom shakalaka.
Oh,
He's not wrong.
boom shakalaka. He would be great,
Boom
wouldn't he?
shakalaka.
Yep.
Oh, for gosh sake, stop talking. Let the woman speak.
Yeah, I mean, not one of us is going to compete with Tim Kitzrow, that's for sure. I'm a lot
Yeah,
more like
not in this
smooth
lifetime.
jazz. And he's
Not
He's
in
right
this
out there.
lifetime. He's a killer.
Yeah, we had
hey-
amazing voice people on the show. John Bailey and Josh
Yeah, we
Robert
have.
Thompson.
Epic
and,
voice guy and JRT, and we're
yeah,
very
and
lucky.
Susan, the original voice of Siri.
Yep. I still follow her, Susan Bennett. You like horror movies? What the heck? What's that about? And what's your kind of go-to? What some people like horror, but they don't like blood. Some people like blood, but they don't like whatever. What's your parameters for your horror movie setup?
I like horror, but I like it with some camp. And I'm not really into like, they call it torture porn, but I'm not like into the Saw movies. Those aren't my favorite. I'm more like Halloween, or Friday the 13th, like silly, campy fun. I loved the Evil Dead series with Bruce Campbell. I will love him till the day I die.
So did
And,
anyone tell you that's another reason to go see Doctor Strange?
Oh yeah, I knew that.
Okay.
I knew that. I'm trying not to get spoiled, but some stuff you can't avoid. So
Yeah, you just got spoiled.
no, but for me, horror and I think violence in general is just like a decompression mechanism. So, the human mind really loves violence as a way to release stress vicariously.
Right.
I think that's
Right.
that's kind of what it is.
Are you not entertained?
I read a lot of Stephen King and stuff growing up too, and in like VC Andrews and weird stuff. Like anything my mom would leave around, I would pick up and read, even when it was wildly inappropriate. So I was exposed to horror as a genre, like probably way younger than I probably should have been.
Being that Stephen King's from Maine, we're all required by law to say he's kind of the best one. So
Of course, obviously. But through his Twitter, I've discovered other horror writers that are up and coming that I love. And through connecting with horror writers on Twitter, I have found some fabulous guests for the Backpack Show. So like, I'm trying not to do them all at once. Like we can't have all horror authors all the time, but damn, they're just really interesting people. Like Julie Hutchings wrote the Harpy series, V. Castro, who wrote that Aliens book about Vasquez, and Queen of the Cicadas, Wabgishig Rice, Moon of the Crusted Snow. So I've discovered and then in turn featured a lot of horror writers on the show, just mostly because I love horror.
What's kind of interesting about that too is that you just said, a female horror writer, a Latina horror writer, a First Nation horror / post APOC writer, et cetera, et cetera. So not even just ye old white guys, but quite an interesting blend there. So that's kind of how you roll. Another question about you and kind of your private time. You tend to get into some interesting hobbies. There's a guitar on the wall back there. Used to play that every now and again. You're a gym person. There's all that kind of stuff. What's Kerry 2022 looking like?
Lazy by comparison. So during the pandemic, I at first doubled down on my guitar lessons, and then we got really busy at work. Like before I changed jobs, I had probably 3 jobs worth of work for a while there. And so I ended up cutting back on the lessons. And then I play occasionally, but I need to start lessons again, is what that amounts to. And then I started doing a radio show for villageradio.net, which is classic alternative stations. So they play like ska and stuff you've heard growing up. Basically, that's the idea. Classic alternative stuff like The Clash and Billy Idol's even in there, which I was surprised, and Spandau Ballet, but I'd never done anything like that before. And so one of my old friends who I knew since I was about 17 was a DJ, and he asked me would I do a show there. So I've been doing that, and that's a hobby. And I had no idea, by the way, this is how naive I am, that they were now voice tracking radio shows on the regular, because when I was growing up, my DJ friends all had to like be in the studio from whatever time to whatever time. No idea that you didn't have to do that anymore, even though I myself have been recording video content for a decade or more. I was like, durr. So,
Who knew?
I don't know. So I do that. That's another hobby of mine. I do go to the gym, but it's like bunny slope. I'm not one of those like no days off, blah, blah, blah. And I just started it again because I live in Tennessee, and they're not super like mask serious or
They're
whatever.
not mask serious.
So I just stayed away from all the mouth breathers at the gym for a solid couple of years and just started going back. I have missed it. And movies, oh my gosh, movies and books. And I one of my 3 words for this year is wellspring, and that had to do with one of your how you do my 3 words exercise. Mine were fire, mockingbird, and wellspring. And fire was to clear away things that were taking up or cluttering my mind. And Mockingbird was to learn just enough about things at Appfire that I could create valuable content without having to get down into like the weeds about how Atlassian command line interface works. Right? That's Mockingbird. And then Wellspring was to consume other types of content that for me would replenish my creative juices and give me new ideas. So that meant getting back to horror for me. So I've been watching a lot more horror movies, even ones I'd never heard before, foreign horror movies, some really good ones there, and reading a lot more horror novels, which is fun. The latest bunch of guests on the show.
That's wonderful. Well, that sounds like you're kind of rolling towards that. I was just looking at these things and I realized.
Oh, and here's our person of the day. Kaboom!
Hooray.
So, Collins. Okay. So
It is really good.
Elizabeth said, I just started going to 8:30 p.m. gym, pretty empty after dinner.
I'm
The gym
tired
wiped
by
around
that,
2:30.
Elizabeth.
Yeah, I don't know.
I've always
8:30.
been a morning person. My first job was at a bakery where I grew up, and I don't know if that's what did it, but I'm a morning person now. Like I wake up early no matter what. I had every job in that bakery by the time I was finished. I started as a dishwasher because my brother had been a dishwasher. It was like a tradition in that
Oh.
bakery. Husband and wife entrepreneur couple owned the bakery, and there were open summers. And so anyway, I worked there every summer from when I was 13 till when I was about 23. Had every job in place.
Was that in Massachusetts where you grew up?
On Cape Cod, yep.
Oh, Cape Cod. Cool.
Mhm.
Cool. All right. So we did person today, and I don't remember. I feel like I've asked you this question once or twice. It could be something physical, like extra set of teeth. It could be something metaphorical,
Like hope for the
kindness.
future.
And what would you throw in your old backpack there?
Curiosity, because every time I've been interested in a person or a skill or something or a topic, it's led me to opportunity. And that's how I've grown and moved from thing to thing to thing. And there's also something about being curious that keeps you, I want to say agile, but not like project management agile. I just mean it
Right.
keeps you ready for anything, because the interest in what comes next it outweighs the fear in most cases.
Which one of your family members would you say was the most like you? As you know, because you have a
Mm.
pretty colorful family background. Who would you say is most like you?
Oh gosh. Probably my Uncle Phil. My father understood me the best when I was growing up, but he was very academic and his writing is very academic. And for a long time, I felt like my writing wasn't good enough because it was so different, so wildly different from his. But I'm just a different animal and my writing does a completely different thing. My mom was such a different person from me altogether that I didn't even understand her at times. Like her decisions and stuff didn't make sense to me. And I'm sure mine didn't make sense to her. But my uncle, he was very smart, at least as smart as my dad. He would say he was street smart, but he could have easily done as well academically as anybody. And he was, I don't know, he had like a ribald sense of humor, and he was a singer like me. And I don't know, overall, I felt like probably my uncle and I were the most alike.
What's
My
an
Uncle
example
Phil,
of like an Uncle
where's
Phil
he?
kind of
He's
joke or
behind my
whatever? Like,
mic. Boop, there he is.
yeah, there he
He's
is.
back there.
What's an example of an Uncle Phil type of joke? Like, what was his sort of style of humor?
He did political humor every once in a while. Every once in a while, he'd tell a real dirty joke, and I can't repeat those here.